Obviously, the ethics report to this point has not been released. Are you confident that it will be, or at the very least, the senators who would like to see the content will be able to do so?
Thank you for having me, Kailey. I'm not sure that the report will be released. Apparently, there's a lot of effort on the part of the Speaker of the House to not have it released. Matt Gaetz seems to be working behind the scenes to do everything to keep it from being released. And I mean, he has the approval of the President of the United States, who has really threatened senators not to defy him in this confirmation process. He wants recess appointments, and it is not clear to me that Matt Gaetz will not be confirmed as Attorney General of the United States of America. Bizarre, to quote Brad Sherman.
Yeah, I think it raised a lot of eyebrows, Congresswoman. The Speaker, though, has suggested the reason this report shouldn't be released is because it sets a bad precedent to release a formal report about someone who is no longer a member. Is there a precedent question here?
There has been a precedent. I think Matt Gaetz conveniently resigned after winning re-election. I think that if he were just going to leave and walk away, that would be one thing. But he has resigned in order to be considered for the Attorney General of the United States, heading up the Justice Department, with allegations that he was engaged in sex trafficking, rape, disqualifying things for me themselves. I'm not a senator, but if I were a senator, Democrat or Republican, I would want to see that report. And, you know,
Gaetz, of course, has... Sorry to interrupt you, Congresswoman. Gaetz has denied these allegations. I guess we'll all have to wait to learn more. But what we do know is that he will not be in the House any longer in this Congress to cast a vote on the business that you still have to get done, including the funding of the government beyond the deadline in December. Is it more likely we end up with a continuing resolution, another kicking of the can down the road into the next Congress? Or are we actually going to get funding done either through separate bills or one big giant one?
Well, I would hope that we would have at least one more continuing resolution. I mean, we have just only a few days to consider these things. But I do know that the 119th Congress will be very, very consequential. You know, elections have consequences. And I'll tell you, last Tuesday night, I was so willing to be bipartisan and to try to work closely with my newest colleagues. But I tell you, this is just a bridge too far. And you would think that I wouldn't feel that way. I mean, there are a couple of Democrats that are part of these congressional picks that has me scratching my head. I'm thinking of Robert Kennedy Jr., for example. I mean, we have 83 children who died of measles because he advised Samoa not to do a vaccination program. Tulsi Gabbard, the National Intelligence Director, with ties to Putin and Syria, and certainly not qualified to do those things. It is very, very concerning. You know, we haven't seen the financial picks yet, but I am very concerned about the best of these nominations, I would say, Marco Rubio. And he's such a hawk on China that I think that that's going to feed into the tariffs and the China war. And those people who voted for President Donald Trump because of their economic woe, 52% of Americans say that they feel strained. Just wait until we have these tariffs. We'll for sure see the next recession roll in. So I certainly hope that the Senate becomes the sort of cooling platter that they're supposed to be. Because from defense and intelligence and the attorney general and what we've seen so far, it is, can I borrow Brad Sherman's nomenclature, bizarre. And I mean, you know,
well, Congresswoman, I'd like to pick up on your tariffs point, because you do sit on the Ways and Means Committee, and Donald Trump would argue part of those tariffs is not just about balancing out what he sees as fair trade with China. It is about helping to fill the Treasury's coffers. Instead, when he has tax cuts he would like to deliver, he says tariffs will offset that. You sit on the committee that looks at this. To what extent is that true?
Well, I can only go by history. I'm looking at 1932, 33. When we imposed tariffs and we went into the Great Depression. So, I only have history to advise me. Certainly the supply chain, if the pandemic was any indication of what it's like to just have that be a problem, we'll see supply chain problems, prices will be greater, and as a member of the Ways and Means Committee, we don't specifically have control over tariffs. That would be a presidential matter. And that is why it's so important for the Senate to be very careful that they vet these people. What concerns me the most now is that the president has demanded that they allow recess appointments. And is really asking the United States Senate to really stand down from doing their job. And I think that this is a really important time for the GOP controlled Senate to stand up for its own institution. And if they don't, it's going to be a wild, wild ride.